Thank you all so much for your time today. Great having you with us here on Business Today, discussing an interesting topic, revolutionize the road transportation safety industry in India through AI, ML, and vision technology. This is really the way of the future, and will give us a very interesting insight into some of the work that's already been happening in this space. We've got Durgadutt Nedungadi, Vice President, India and International Business at Netradyne. Thanks so much for joining us. We've got Ramesh Agarwal, Chairman, All India Transporters Welfare Association, and Mr. Rohit Baluja. Dr. Rohit is joining us. He's the President of Institute of Road Traffic Education. Great having you all with us. Let me start off with you, Durgadutt, on on some of the stats. Now, according to the India Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, about 80,000 people are killed in road crashes every year. It's a startling statistic, and this accounts for about 13% of the total fatality all over the world, which is a huge number again. How can vision-based technology really help in terms of resolving this concern, bringing that number down? To what extent do you feel that deep technology can help to prevent some of these accidents?
Sure, that's a great question. Actually, Netradyne was set up as a company with just this intent. Actually, our mission is to actually bring down accidents, save lives, save cargo, economically save the optimization of vehicles and so on. And accidents are a huge part of the big problem. And if you really look at what causes accidents, right, largely, unfortunately, it is mostly driver error which causes accidents, either the driver of the vehicle itself or the driver of another vehicle which is involved in that accident. So our aim using vision-based technologies is to be able to preemptively alert the driver on many factors. It could be on how close his vehicle is to another vehicle in front of him, so therefore in time to avoid a collision. It could be a lot of things to do with the driver's behavior themselves. For example, are they distracted? Are they talking on the phone? Are they falling asleep? Right? All of these actually can be today recognized as trends by vision-based technology. And we do have implementations of it today, which we have found reduces accident levels immensely. In advanced countries where road signs, traffic lights, all of those are fairly consistent, we have found that usage of our device brings down accident rates by as much as 40%. So, and that's a huge number when you look at the number of lives which could be potentially saved, right? So this is real, and it can be done today.
Dr. Baluja, how does India stack up vis-a-vis developed nations in the adoption of safe driving technology? I want to ask, whether or not as a culture we have completely adopted the use of some of that technology. We have seatbelts, people don't wear them, for example. But in terms of at a higher level, in terms of the regulatory and technological means, how much have we really progressed?
It is a fortunate and an unfortunate way that we are looking at technology. We are trying to leapfrog from a developing country to a developed country, and whatever the developed country is doing today, we just want to bring everything here and use it. Now, today, for example, you mentioned it is the World Health Organization says that 300,000 people die on our roads every year, which is 820 every day. The one fact is that in our country, 74% of the vehicles are two-wheelers, powered two-wheelers. And the number of people who die is 40% on two-wheelers. Now, technology is an enabler. It is not a solution by itself. So we are trying to say that, let's put cameras and automatic number plate recognitions. Let's put red light jumping systems. But do you know that almost like in Delhi itself, our report said that 73% of the signals do not correspond to standards. There's no investigation of accidents in our country, scientific investigation, and that's what I'm teaching to the police. Perhaps not even a single accident is investigated scientifically because we blame everything onto the driver or road user. But there must be at least 33% of the road fatalities happening because of faulty roads. Our police is not trained, our road engineers are not trained. So importance is that to bring in technologies, we need to bring the real intelligence in place. Like rightly Durgadutt pointed out, that in developed world, almost like let us say Europe, the entire road system, the signs, signal, geometrics, road markings, traffic control devices are to perfection. But in India, almost half or more are not as per perfection. So if you try to put in technology as a total solution, it will not work. But if you use it as an enabler, yes, then it will work. Vehicle technologies, warning systems are very good. We need them. Camera systems, we need them. But technology in itself, according to me, is a very misconception which the governments and people believe that we can solve it. Let us take another example. Today we have started using technology for giving driving licenses. You have automatic, most of the states now are now putting like IDTRs and all an automated track. So driver has to go and drive on that track, do an S, do a reverse, and if he hits something, then but there are no people in it. There are no faulty devices on it. He is not checked to the defensive driving. He is not checked to the fault of other road users. He is not checked to motor vehicle driving regulations. He is only checked for driving skill. But our skills are very good. Indian drivers have the best skills in the world. Now, this technology has been misused just by the fact that we want to avoid corruption. And so you can put anything. So today, technology is good, but don't leapfrog it and do not use it as a solution by itself. Use it as an enabler. That's my suggestion to your channel.
Okay. Durgadutt, do you want to take that point forward?
No, absolutely. In fact, I'm in complete agreement, that technology is an enabler and it needs to be used to empower the drivers to drive better, to actually give them tips on, what aspects of their driving is needing an improvement, as well as to reward them for good driving behavior, right? And, and I completely agree that just forcing down technology on its own is probably counter efficient, if you will. But once and just your point, sir, we actually did a study with Zoom Car, where we installed about 500 devices on Zoom Car vehicles, and the study was actually conducted by IISc in Bangalore. And we found that without actually training the drivers on what our device was doing, without really enabling the driver monitoring features, obviously for privacy reasons and so on and so forth, just by having in-cab alerts or in the car alerts coming in to say that, your driving behavior is going wrong in some way, we actually saw that accidents reduced by almost 15%. So enabling the driver and enabling them to behave better on the roads, enabling them to take the right precautions while driving, absolutely goes a long way. And today, vision-based AI/ML technologies do that today. But I'm in total agreement.
Okay. Ramesh, let me come to you. What can the Indian government, road safety authorities, transport associations, so on and so forth, commercial fleet operators, for instance, do to accelerate the pace of adoption of this technology?
जो सब्जेक्ट आपने लिया बहुत ही मतलब एक तरह से मेरी तो हर टचिंग सब्जेक्ट है ये। सबसे पहले हमको ये मालूम करना पड़ेगा कि ये एक्सीडेंट होते क्यों हैं। एक धारणा मन में कर ले कि ड्राइवर का फॉल्ट होगा, वो उससे भी हाउ टू कम आउट। ये बहुत पुराना हो गया कि इसके 500 रुपए फाइन लगा दो, 5000 लगा दो, 5 लाख लगा दो, एक्सीडेंट फिर भी होगा। तो इसका रूट काज क्या है, एक्सीडेंट होता क्यों है। अब एज पर दैट रिकॉर्ड्स that 1,38,000 people they die due to road accidents, directly indirect, जिसमें सब कुछ आ गए. I don't say कि हाईवे के ऊपर, स्टेट हाईवे, आउट ऑफ जो हमने जो स्टडी करवाई थी, आउट ऑफ 1,38,000, 26,400 पीपल दे डाई बिकॉज जो सबसे बड़ा रीजन है, ड्राइवर्स जो चलाने वाले होते हैं वो अपने नींद में चलाते हैं. सबसे बड़ा नींद का कारण एक. अब ये नींद आती क्यों है? जब हम नेशनल हाईवे के ऊपर चलेंगे, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट ट्रक ड्राइवर्स, तो जब वो रास्ते में गाड़ी कहीं भी रोककर यदि वो सोना चाहेगा तो सोने के लिए क्या चाहिए? और वो सो क्यों नहीं सकता? यदि वो सो जाएगा तो उसको अपने डीजल की चोरी, बैटरी की चोरी, स्टेपनी की चोरी, माल की चोरी, रस्से की चोरी, तिरपाल की चोरी, पैसे की चोरी, पुलिस के डंडे, बड़े बड़े मच्छर. वो सोना तो चाहता है पर वो सो नहीं सकता. किसी ड्राइवर को हमने कहा कि भाई आप सो जाया करो, आपके कारण नींद होती है. तो जैसे भिखारी को आप कहोगे कि भाई खाना खा लो, अच्छा नहीं तो सेहत खराब हो जाएगी, तो सेम वे ड्राइवर बोला अच्छा साहब नींद है कहाँ? दैट मीन्स ये कौन दोषी है? क्या ड्राइवर दोषी है? ये दोषी हम कहीं ना कहीं समाज दोषी है. कोई CSR का ऐसा कोई कंसेप्ट नहीं आ पा रहा कि इन ड्राइवरों को नींद का दान दिया जाए. नंबर 1 ये रहा. दूसरा, जितने भी जो ड्राइवर्स, ट्रक ड्राइवर आज जो रोड पे चलते हैं वो भय युक्त चलते हैं, भय युक्त, इनकी विद फियर टोटल. यदि वो रोड के ऊपर जाकर एक जीप खड़ी हो जाए तो ड्राइवर वहीं कांपता हुआ उस जीप को क्रॉस करेगा. क्यों भाई? वो कोई क्रिमिनल है क्या? उसको 25 लाख का ट्रक और 25 लाख का माल देकर हम भेज रहे हैं, 50 लाख की वो मटेरियल लेके जा रहा है. क्या उसकी इतना बड़ा कोई, वो कितनी बड़ी सुपरदारी है, कितना बड़ा विश्वास का पात्र है वो, उसके बाद भी वो भय युक्त जीता है, भय से. ये तो डायरेक्टली मौत है जो एक्सीडेंट से होती है, बट शुगर, BP जो ड्राइवर अपने आप 10 साल पहले मर जाते हैं हिंदुस्तान में, ये इनडायरेक्ट मौत है उनकी. तो ये दूसरा उसका कारण है. तीसरा, जो ड्राइवर महीनों के बाद अपने घर में वापस आता है तो कितनी फटीग होती होगी. तो ये तीनों कारण को ढूंढने के बाद पता लगा कि ये कारण टेक्निकली हम इनको रिमूव कर सकते हैं. सबसे पहले मैं आता हूँ निद्रादान का, नींद का दान. तो पहला एक प्रयोग किया हमने, दैट इज अवर कंपनी, जिसमें मैं ऑल इंडिया ट्रांसपोर्ट का नेशनल प्रेसिडेंट भी हूँ और साथ के साथ अग्रवाल पैकरमोर लिमिटेड का मैं चेयरमैन भी. अपने घर से शुरू किया. दिल्ली और जयपुर और अजमेर के बीच में हमने एक निद्रा दान केंद्र खोला. 50 एकड़ का एक पीस लेकर 12 एकड़ के अंदर 500 चारपाई, कंबल, पंखे, लैट्रिन बाथरूम, एयरपोर्ट जैसे, नाई की सेवाएं, ड्राइवर की पाँव की मसाज, कपड़े धोने की मशीन. और कहा कि कोई भी हिंदुस्तान का ड्राइवर इस नेशनल हाईवे 8 से निकलेगा तो आपको 4 आवर्स सोना पड़ेगा और ये सारी फैसिलिटी फ्री, अदरवाइज विल चार्ज यू. तो लोगों ने जब कम्प्लीमेंट्री फैसिलिटी मिली सोना शुरू कर दिया. यू सरप्राइज टू नो दैट कि इनके कारण पर डे 400 नींद दिवाते हैं, 4 आवर्स प्लस की एक नींद बोलते हैं, और 12,000 नींद एक महीने की होती है. एक IIM की अहमदाबाद की स्टडी हुई है कि 500 नींद यदि कोई दिला देता है 4 आवर्स प्लस, तो उसके हाथ से एक एक्सीडेंट और एक मौत बचती है. इस 12,000 नींद के कारण एवरी मंथ 24 लोग मरने से बच गए. तो रूट का ढूंढा इसके अंदर, क्योंकि नींद के कारण मरता, तो एक ये हमारा नींद का कारण है. दूसरा, जब कोई ड्राइवर दिल्ली से एक महीने की फटीग में आता है तो आप समझ सकते हो कि घर से कितना दूर रहकर किस तरह से वो जीता होगा. तो एक ड्राइवर रिलीवर सिस्टम का एक ऐप बन रहा है, ऑलमोस्ट इट इज टू बी कंप्लीटेड. ये ऑल इंडिया ट्रांसपोर्ट लागू करने वाली है. जैसे दिल्ली से एक ड्राइवर चला ग्वालियर तक, वो ग्वालियर के 5 किलोमीटर पहले ऐप में नोटिफिकेशन भेजेगा कि भाई आई एम गोइंग टू बी, आई नीड अ रिलीवर. तो उसके आजू बाजू के जितने भी ड्राइवर होंगे, तो उस गाड़ी के टाइप के जो ऑलरेडी रजिस्टर्ड ड्राइवर होंगे, वन ऑफ देम विल एक्सेप्ट इट. तो वो एक्सेप्ट करेगा, वो ड्राइवर वहां उतरेगा, दूसरा ड्राइवर गाड़ी ले जाकर आगे नागपुर तक जाएगा, फिर वो उतरेगा, व्हाइल कमिंग बैक दूसरी व्हीकल उसको आफ्टर 4 आवर्स उसको फिर एक ड्यूटी विल बैक टू होम द सेम डे. 5 घंटे आने के, 4 घंटे रेस्ट के, और ही विल गेट पर किलोमीटर. लाइक सपोज कर ले, जो आज इंडिया मार्केट का रेट है 3 रुपीज 80 पैसा पर किलोमीटर, उसको 2000 रुपीज मिलेंगे और महीने के ही कैन अर्न 30,000. तो उसकी फटीग नहीं हुई, घर से दूर बट घर से ऐसा हुआ अपना काम.
Okay, so Rameshi, that's interesting points, and from the perspective also of what's happening on ground. Dr. Rohit, when we're talking about commercial vehicles and road transport operators, what is the where does the Indian industry primarily stand, according to you also, to get your input on this with respect to curbing road accidents here? And how can, the different segments of industry contribute to the union government's mission of targeting that 50% reduction of road accident deaths by 2024? 50% in by 24.
No, 2030 is what the,
30. Okay.
our target.
Sounds more feasible.
Next decade of action.
Okay.
See, what Mr. Agarwal is on one side rightly trying to present that, we always believe that the driver of the vehicle is at fault. Today, the road accident investigation is of a belief that, the driver is at fault, and the heavier vehicle driver is at the right fault. If a truck hits a car, the truck is at fault. Car hits a two-wheeler, the car is at fault. If a two-wheeler hits a pedestrian, the two-wheeler is at fault. Now, that's a belief that they go through. And generally, you see that drivers of truck drivers and all are very cautious drivers. Now, they really are not given the proper, you don't have parking places, fine. But today, technology we are talking of. The subject today is technology. Now, technology can only, we are helping now what Mr. Durgadutt says, that technologies are coming in. One is to bring a fear psychosis in the drivers, that you are being watched. And so he may do things which are still wrong as per law, but just that he would not swerve, not do a sharp braking. He'll drive on the right-hand side of the road, which is absolutely faulty. Today, the industry needs to come up in a manner to bring in technologies for driver training. Today, for example, we need technologies in the driver's cabin. If you look into trucks, they're not air-conditioned. They're not ergonomic. They're not suited to what are the needs of today. We need to bring in. Technology should be telling us what is going wrong, what are the needs of the drivers, etc. As far as heavy vehicles are concerned, Mr. Agarwal is concerned. But once again, coming back to, we have 73% two-wheelers in this country. We need, who is dying at a lot in our cities like Delhi, for example, 50% of the people who die are pedestrians. We do not have the basic facility for a pedestrian. Where in Delhi can you walk? Or there's no place to walk. Everything is encroached. We don't have pedestrian crossings to walk. We don't have bicycle tracks to work. So today we need the technological support by industry to make sure that, at least faulty parkings should not be allowed. We should not be parking at wrongful places. We should be able to look into better technologies for safety in our vehicles. Now, most new vehicles have safety devices. So I don't know where, but my participation today, I would like to once again emphasize that, we need to give more emphasis on manpower development. And rather than bringing in technology always to develop, and so that the technology, what Durgadutt is bringing in, should be used to the optimum. It should support Mr. Agarwal's whole program to be driven. And then we will be able to support the government in the right manner.
In fact, I was going to ask you, Durgadutt, in terms of training drivers, for instance, how technology can
Sure. So first, I'll just talk about what both Mr. Agarwal and Dr. Rohit have spoken. So I think it's a very, very creditable initiative that Mr. Agarwal spoke about having rest stops created for drivers, free of cost with all the right amenities, and obviously technology does not replace that. But what technology does do is to be able to give the driver an advance notification that there is a trend that he's going to fall asleep, right? And so therefore he needs to be careful. That's, and the fact that the fact that we are able to alert a driver when his eyes have closed, to wake him up and to make him take action, even if it is not to sleep for 4 hours, at least for him to take a break for 10 to 15 minutes until he potentially reaches a rest stop, that in itself could save lives. So, and I'm completely in agreement with what Dr. Rohit said as well. We have to use technology hand in hand with manpower development. Having said that, should we ignore what is a low-hanging fruit today and say that rather than, while there is technology, let's wait for some fundamental changes, which, I think are necessary, and all of what Dr. Rohit said are points which are absolutely necessary for us to implement. But in our own way, if there is an opportunity for us to even reduce, forget the 50% figure for a moment, but even, every 2 or 3% that you can bring down is a substantial amount of lives being saved. So if there are technologies which are today available to, one, exonerate drivers. We spoke about the fact that, the bigger vehicle is always typically held responsible for an accident. Camera-based technologies like ours can give the driver on his mobile phone app a video of exactly what happened within 2 minutes of the incident, right? Which completely, obviously, if he's at fault, it'll capture the fact that he was at fault. But if he was not at fault, it completely gives him evidence that exonerates him. So from all views, it can, technology can only make things better rather than, how should I put it, being an impediment. And Dr. Rohit, we have actually found from experience that you're right. While the initial reaction of a driver when he looks at a camera is fear of being surveilled, over a period of time, and it could be as short as a month, the driver realizes that the device is actually there to help him rather than to actually find fault with him, right? And this is a trend that we're seeing both in India as well as in advanced countries where our devices are installed. One of the largest retail oil and gas companies in the world have mandated that their tanker trucks in India will not ply unless our device is functional. And that is purely because it gives the driver the advance warning that there could potentially be an incident which could impact the driver's life and obviously the cargo that he carries and potentially the life of people around that tanker truck as well. So while I agree that, we have to take fundamental measures to improve development, to improve manpower awareness, our belief is that adopting what we have could be a small step which contributes.
Okay. All right, great. Now, the National Road Safety Policy of 2010 stipulates that the government will establish a road safety information database to help states, UTs, local bodies improve the quality of crash information, data collection, transmission. Durgadutt, again, how is the industry really supporting the government in this regard?
Look, if we, as Dr. Rohit mentioned very early on, the kind of investigations that happens on crashes are not really scientific. Right? If you look at places like the UK, the police actually have forensic investigators who are specially trained to inspect vehicles after an accident. Right now, obviously, it will take us a long time to get there, but at least if we have footage of what actually happened on the road, right, and what could have been done to prevent that event, then at least it's a starting point. And as technology companies, we're willing to actually step up and say that whatever is required from our end, we're willing to contribute towards that. So while I think the vision is the right one, I think there are a number of steps that need to be ironed out to actually make it an executable plan on the ground.
Okay. Ramesh ji, among the states, कौन काम ठीक से मतलब प्रोग्रेस कहाँ प्रोग्रेस आपको दिख रहा है और कहाँ पे थोड़ा धीरे है प्रोग्रेस? Dr. Rohit's laughing at my Hindi. But What steps do you think have been taken, to improve road safety attitude, culture, whether it's at primary, secondary, tertiary school levels? मतलब कहाँ पे आपको प्रोग्रेस दिख रहा है इस बारे में?
कंप्लीट कंट्री की बात करें तो 2 स्टेट ऐसी माइनस है, लाइक छत्तीसगढ़ एंड मध्य प्रदेश, जहां हर जगह ऑब्स्टेकल है, रूल रेगुलेशन के मामले में भी, और ट्रैफिक जो एक कहते हैं ना कि लाइक रोड को जाम करने के लिहाज से भी, एक टीआई खड़ा हो जाता है, हजारों ट्रक की लाइन लगवा देता है. सो दैट्स 2 स्टेट्स. और ऑफ कोर्स सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ने उनके रूल्स रेगुलेशन भी बड़े अच्छी तरह से ड्राफ्ट कर दिए कि यू कैन नॉट halt it unless there is a reason to believe. अब हमारे पास सबके मौलिक अधिकार है, फंडामेंटल राइट्स है कि हमको रोड पे चलने का, बट स्टिल जो रीजन टू बिलीव जब तक नहीं होता, यू कैन नॉट होल्ड द व्हीकल्स अननेसेसरी, बिकॉज करोड़ों रुपए की लागत का सामान इतने घंटे रोकते हैं, तो इट इज ए कॉस्ट द कंट्री इकोनॉमी. मगर उनकी अपनी एक रूल्स का हिस्सा है, तो ये अभी तक नहीं मानते, बट लेट अस सी. और दूसरा जो रोड पे अभी रोहित जी भी कह रहे थे और दुर्गादास जी कह रहे थे कि बिकॉज टेक्नोलॉजी का जो है वो 100%, जो आज हम कहते हैं डिवाइस, हमने भी अभी ट्रायल के ऊपर चालू किए हुए हैं मोर देन 100 व्हीकल्स के, तो 10 सेकंड पहले यदि उसको नींद की झप्पी आती है तो इट गिव्स लाइक अलर्ट कि भी आप अलर्ट हो जाओ. ये एक है. और ड्राइवर्स का बिहेवियर, वी कैन मॉनिटर ड्राइवर का बिहेवियर, किस जगह कितनी स्पीड चलाई, कैसे हुआ लाल बत्ती, तो दैट इज आल्सो टेक्निकली इट विल बी हेल्पिंग अस, क्योंकि हम उन ड्राइवर को ट्रेनिंग नोट बना सके, उसमें हेल्प करेगी बी. और हम उस ड्राइवर के ऊपर कह सकते हैं कि अभी यू हैव टू गो अंडर फॉर ट्रेनिंग फॉर हाफ मंथ और 2 months, वी कैन नॉट गिव द स्टीयरिंग टू यू. तो उस लिहाज से भी वो काम आएगी, वो बहुत ही अहम है. जो तीसरा जो मैं निद्रादान भी है, वो दैट इज आल्सो ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी. बिना टेक्नोलॉजी वो भी नहीं हो सकता, बिकॉज हमको पर डे 50,000 नींद दिलानी है, 50,000 नींद पर डे, वो टेक्नोलॉजी से ही होगा. और पैसा कौन देगा? वो हमारे वेंडर्स देंगे, लाइक टाटा, आइसर. तो उनको कैसे मालूम होगा कि नींद 4 घंटे की ली नहीं ली? दैट एक ऐप ही उनको विश्वास दिलाएगी. सोनसो होटल के ऊपर ड्राइवर इतने बजे रुका, इतने बजे गया, और इस ऐप के माध्यम से ही स्लेप्ट 4 hours एंड मोर. और उनका जो बिल आएगा 40 रुपीज का, दैट विल बी पेड डायरेक्टली टू बाय लाइक दिस वेंडर्स, ऑटोमोटिव कंपनीज. तो एटवा तो एक जस्ट लाइक ब्रिज है उन नींद दिलाने वालों को, नींद लेने वालों का और नींद दिलाने वालों का. और यदि 50,000 नींद हमारी हो जाती है, तो पर डे 100 आदमी मरने से ये केवल निद्रा दान ही बता सकता है.
Okay. Dr. Rohit, are there cases where you've been working on some new initiatives, but there's reluctance by industry to adapt because of cost pressures, or any other new technology that is now being introduced or being worked on that you can share with us? Any case studies, or perhaps even where something hasn't worked? I mean, if you could share with us some of the ongoing innovations that are being looked at.
Are you speaking only for the industry at the moment?
Yes.
Like me to address? Yes. See, the industry today, when they look at corporate social responsibility, they look at only benefiting themselves. Today, CSR actually means that you should be delivering to those who require help. Now, today, one of the clear things is that the drivers, if you look into the syllabus of the getting a license to drive for a heavy vehicle, a minimum training should be for 28 days.
Yeah.
And there's no way that a heavy vehicle driver undergoes that sort of a training. And that's a minimum for a license. If you look into the knowledge of the driver, he's skilled, but he's got almost very little knowledge of traffic control devices, signs, signal, road markings, or the law. The only thing, as you see, that if a police officer stops you, he has got the knowledge only to bargain of how much he has to pay to that police officer or transport officer, but he's not trained. So to the industry today needs to ensure that the knowledge of the driver should be there, and the driver should be trained. Absolutely. He should have the knowledge what is required under the legislation. We don't need anything extra. So there we find is a large gap. And the corporates today, the industry today does not want to spare the driver or pay for that training, not even for a day. Now, here is where the industry needs to think that manpower development, investment is very important, and technology will extremely help the way both the participants are mentioning to do this. Second is that today technology, rightly, for example, smaller things like putting a video cam in front of your windscreen is recording everything, gives you support. Everybody gets that support. Smaller things need to be promoted. We shouldn't be avoiding it. Technology today, for example, the industry must ensure that the people who driving for the industry or associated within the industry will not be using mobile phones while driving. Now, there are things that they can, at least as smaller issuances, they can actually bring about a character of the people who are going to drive. And so many things I could go on, but
No, sir. In fact, if I could come in for a minute
Yes.
on this one, Dr. Rohit, you're absolutely correct. I think while there is a lot of training or a lot of change required in the process of training drivers prior to their getting a license, I think what technology can do today is to help coach them while they're on their day-to-day job so that they improve. So, something that our technology allows you to do, for example, is if a fleet has, say, 100 trucks and 150 drivers driving those trucks, on a week-to-week basis, the fleet manager can actually track, which driver is making what kind of errors and, develop a trend of who are your top 10 drivers who need to be rewarded and who are your top 10, for example, drivers who need coaching. And actually what technology does today is to enable you to use videos of their own driving behavior to coach them towards becoming better on the roads, right? Whether it is how they actually use the vehicle on the road, or whether it is their own, their own condition while they're driving, whether it is distracted, talking on the phone, etc. So this has become, improving driver behavior in itself has become an extremely important characteristic for fleets in developed countries. And I'm of the view that, imbibing this culture into India in itself to improve our, commercial vehicle drivers' behavior will go a long way in getting us longer term results as well.
Okay, fair enough. So, I've been trying to get both sides of the
Absolutely.
spectrum. So Durgadutt, for you, in which ways do you feel that the government can really support the entire road safety initiative? What else can be done? I mean, it's a fairly unorganized sector. There are challenges, but what more do you feel could be done?
So firstly, as Dr. Rohit had indicated earlier on, I think there needs to be a concerted effort to make our roads consistent. And what I mean by that is, it shouldn't take us long to develop a standard for road signs. It shouldn't take us long to develop a standard for traffic lights. It shouldn't take us long for having, predictability in the way lanes are actually defined on our roads, right? Once we have that consistency, it then allows technology to use that consistency to actually improve safety, right? So that's step one. Step two, of course, is, I wouldn't say legislation, but I would definitely say an encouragement to fleets to increasingly use technology to save lives, whether that's in the form of incentives, whether that's in the form of legislation. We saw some legislation come in for, on transport buses, for example, which mandated panic buttons and cameras. Similarly, if legislation like that could come through for, which would help driver safety and vehicle safety on the roads, that would go an incredibly long way.
Okay. Are there any cases, Durgadutt, of or anecdotes you can share, whether in India or globally, of something that's worked really well or something that hasn't? Every now and then you hear about how technology has perhaps caused some chaos as well. That could be an exception, but just anecdotally.
Sure. So, there are a number of stories where technology has worked, dramatically. So, unfortunately, one of the other panelists could not make it today, but his organization, through just the implementation of our device, when we started implementing with them in India, we found that across their fleet of 400 vehicles, on an average, they were getting 1.2 alerts for every 1.5 hours of driving, right? And these could be different kinds of alerts of driving, whether it's driving too fast, driving too slow, driving too close to the vehicle in front of you, driver being distracted, etc. So any of these alerts is categorized amongst this, and they were getting 1.2 alerts per 1.5 hours, right? Over a period of 1.5 years, that has now come down to 0.08 alerts over 1.5 hours. So you can see the kind of improvement that they've seen. Now, this directly correlates to driver behavior. It correlates to safety. It correlates to an accident reduction, right? Because the better you drive, the lower alerts you create, and roads become safer. Some of the hilarious side effects of our technology were that we could actually detect, the cameras actually recorded a theft where dacoits actually stopped a truck, brought down the driver. The driver pressed, a driver-initiated alert. The camera started recording, and the police recorded the entire process of how, a gang of thieves not only actually assaulted the driver, but tried to actually steal the cargo. And then once they realized that they were being recorded, they actually fled.
Right.
So there are a number of benefits that technology can bring in. Now, what are the downsides? The downsides are that technology is never 100% accurate, right? We can get artificial intelligence to be 99%, 99.9% accurate. What drivers will need to live with every 0.01 times is the fact that technology could be pushing a false alert, right? For example, it could be saying that you've done this when he actually did not do it, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that as a community is a trade-off to the benefits that AI brings to the table.
Okay. So just time for a closing note then. Rameshji, just, in terms of summarizing or a closing note, anything you'd like to add before we wind up today?
Durgadutt ne definitely, jo aaj technology need of the hours or people are adopting it, but us sikke ka dusra pehlu ye hai, because as on India, every day 24 lakhs truck off the road रहते हैं हमारे, because we don't have drivers. 24 लाख, it's not a small amount. और ये statement मेरी नहीं है, माननीय गडकरी जी की पार्लियामेंट में दी हुई स्टेटमेंट. सबसे पहले तो we have to ban. आज कुछ भी हम if start some technology and if the driver has got a doubt कि मेरे ऊपर चेक करना है, वो 2 मिनट में गाड़ी छोड़ देगा, because वो इस ट्रेड में कोई आना ही नहीं चाहता. आज ही 24 लाख है और हम जितना भी उनके ऊपर कोई प्रेशर टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करते हैं, इट गोज टू 25 लाख, देन 30. फिर ये कोई रोबोट कोई मिल गया तो गाड़ी चलेगी, अदरवाइज ड्राइवर्स का मन ही नहीं है गाड़ी चलाने का. तो वी हैव टू बैलेंस इट कि वो ड्राइवर एनी टेक्नोलॉजी कुछ भी लाओ, उसको इंसेंटिव क्या मिला ड्राइवर को. आपकी जितनी भी टेक्नोलॉजी है, इट शुड बी फॉलोड विद द बेनिफिट टू द इंडिविजुअल ड्राइवर, देन ओनली टेक्नोलॉजी एप्लीकेबल होगी. ये टेक्नोलॉजी वी नीड इट एज ए ओनर, एज ए ट्रांसपोर्टर. मैं बहुत ही इसके लिए उत्सुक हूँ, बट अंदर अल्टीमेटली जिसने टेक्नोलॉजी के ऊपर थोपी जा रही है वो एक्सेप्टेड करता है या नहीं है. वो जब करेगा तब उसको एक ऐसा मिले कि मेरे बेनिफिट के लिए हो रहा है. मेरे को आज 30,000 मिल रहा है तो आई कैन गेट 35,000 रुपीज बिकॉज ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी. ऐसा कुछ टेक्नोलॉजी को साथ नहीं जोड़ेंगे तो टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं आ सकती. और बिकॉज हमारा सप्लाई चेन के अंदर 24 लाख का एक बहुत बड़ा, आप नेशनल लॉस बताओ कितने ट्रक, 24 लाख ट्रक आज ऑफ द रोड है, और मटेरियल रोड के ऊपर वो ढोना भी चाहते हैं, नहीं ढो सकते.
Okay.
This is to be taken care.
Okay. Dr. Rohit, closing comments from you. And is there a city in India that could be considered gold standard in road safety? Is there any model?
Yes, of course, we have Chandigarh is
I thought so, yeah.
A perfect city where, because of the environment which is conducive. But very quickly to sum up here is that technology today is required. We cannot do without technology. Number one, technology for road environment, road maintenance, road governance. Technology we require for driver training. Technology we require for vehicles. The vehicle factor is doing very good today. We've got one of the best technologies coming in. We have got now a crash testing. We've got automatic airbags coming in more into our vehicles. So everything is good. Perfect. Technology for enforcement. Now, technology for enforcement is required, but without the engineering, if the road engineering is faulty, the enforcement technology will be a disaster for the people. We need technology for data collection. Today, I read, for example, the new things we are bringing in. But if police is not trained, the softwares will not do. We can do reconstruction of accidents by three-dimensional accidents. We need technology. But who will do it? It is the police who has to do it. So they need to train. So as an enabler, it is good, but we need to we have to match it with real intelligence if we have to use artificial intelligence.
Very well said, both of you. And Durgadutt, your closing comments as well. Please, what is the vision you have for how technology will really play a role in India's future roadmap and for safety?
So as I said in the beginning, we really look at our success being basically reduction of accidents on the road. And while I agree with both the panelists that there is a lot of ancillary work that needs to be done so that technology in itself can work, I believe that the faster we adopt, the bigger difference we make, the quicker difference we make towards getting to our goal. And while we can talk about detriments and what else needs to be done, if there is low-hanging fruit there, which even saves one more life tomorrow, then I think that is something that we should seriously look at embracing and implementing on our roads. And we are seeing in India a huge uptake of interest across segments, and which is really encouraging, because that also means that drivers themselves see benefit in actually being a part of this whole exercise of using that technology to improve drive times. So, I'm very optimistic that, as the number of deployments on the road of AI-based technology, vision-based technology increase, and as everything around us, the surround to that technology also starts to improve, over a period of time, we will definitely create significant impact on safety.
All right. With that, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. It was really great hearing all of you sharing in detail some of the steps being taken to reduce accidents, increase road safety, and really adopt some of the best-in-class technology for the future of safety here in India. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us here in Business.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.